I call the regular meeting of the City of Council for Campbell to order. To protect our constituents, city officials, and city staff, the city requests all members of the public follow the guidance of the California Department of Human Services and the County of Santa Clara Health Officer Order to help control the spread of COVID-19. Additional information regarding COVID-19 is available at the city's website at www.campbellca.gov. The City of Campbell thanks you in advance for taking all precautions to prevent spreading the COVID-19 virus. The slides aren't timed yet, guys, whoever's doing that. At this point, I want to call to order the regular meeting, and it is conducted via telecommunications and is compliant with provisions of the Brown Act and the Executive Order N-29-20 issued by the Governor. The City Council meeting is being live streamed on Channel 28 and the city's website and YouTube. Members of the public will not be able to attend the meeting at the Campbell City Council chambers physically. However, the public comment will be accepted via email at cityclerksoffice@campbellca.gov during the meeting. Before the close of public comment on any item, please note that the city cannot guarantee that any email sent during the meeting will be received by the close of the public comment. If you choose to email your comments during the meeting, please indicate in the subject line for public comment and list the item number that you wish to comment on. Comments will be read during the comment period for the item and will be subject to the 2-minute time limitation, approximately 250 words. If you would like to submit an oral request, or if there is any item on the consent calendar that you wish to comment on, please send your email now to allow time for the city's clerk's office to receive them. At this point, I'll ask the Deputy City Clerk for a roll call.
Councilmember Waterman.
Here.
Councilmember Bybee. Present. Councilmember Resnikoff.
Here.
Vice Mayor Gibbons.
Did you get here?
Mayor Landry.
Present. At this point, we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we have a special presentation and a proclamation. We are now declaring April 21st, 2020 as Arbor Day in the City of Campbell. It is recommended that the City Council approve this proclamation. Okay. Next is communications and petitions. At this point, I do not see any communications or petitions. City Clerk, do we have any? Andrea?
We do not.
Okay. Next is oral request. This is the portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the City Council on any matter not on the agenda. The law generally prohibits the council from discussing or taking action on such items. However, the City Council may instruct staff accordingly regarding oral request. If you would wish to get an item on oral request, please email the City Clerk right now at clerksoffice@campbellca.gov. Has the Deputy City Clerk received any comments on the items not on the agenda?
We have not.
All right, thank you.
Oh, isn't there I believe we did get one, right? Yes.
Yes, there was a desk item. However, he did not require that it be read during the meeting.
Excuse me, there were two. One was to be read during the meeting and one was not.
Correct. The other one is for item 7. That we'll be reading.
So just to make note, we did receive an email from Steve Saunders asking some questions, but he did not want his read at this time.
Madam Mayor, I think it's the
Yeah,
other
something's not
one. The one on oral communications did not want it to be read, but wanted the council to see it. And I think Mr. Saunders did want his statement to be read on item 7.
Under item
Correct.
7, though. Yes.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. All right. At this point, we're going to
Mayor,
move.
Mayor Landry,
Yes, Bill.
did the council want to take a vote on the proclamation? I know it's the proclamation itself comes from the mayor, but I noticed that the language of the recommendation asked the city council to approve the proclamation.
All right. Thank you for that. I will go back to the recommended action under special presentations and proclamations. I'll take a motion.
I'll move we proclaim April 24th, 2020 as Arbor Day in the city of Campbell.
Second.
Okay, we're going to do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Waterman,
Aye.
Councilmember Bybee,
Aye.
Councilmember Resnikoff,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Givens,
Aye.
Mayor Landry.
Aye, that motion passes. Thank you. All right, we're going to go to council announcements, and we're going to start with our city attorney, Bill Solomon.
Yes, Mayor Landry, members of the council. In executive session, you took action on 2 matters that need to be reported out. The first was a unanimous vote to authorize the city attorney to initiate litigation on 1 item. The identity of the parties to that matter would be available for disclosure upon inquiry following the actual initiation of the litigation. The second item was a 3-2 vote with council members, Council Member Gibbons, Council Member Bybee, and Mayor Landry voting in favor, and Council Member Resnikoff and Council Member Waterman voting against for the termination of the city clerk effective immediately.
Thank you. I'm going to now read the mayor announcements. This is where the slides come in. I don't know if that's Cecil. All right, thank you. The City of Campbell continues to work closely with our partnering agencies to monitor how the coronavirus is impacting our communities. We are actively monitoring the information provided by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and reviewing guidance provided by the county's public health department. We continue to take proactive steps to prioritize the health and safety of employees and community members. Our focus is to maintain essential services and keep you informed. Campbell's Recreation and Community Services provides virtual recreation to stay active, healthy, and connected while you are at home and sheltering in place. Visit the Recreation and Community Services webpage at campbellca.gov to start exploring. Next, if you need assistance finding food, paying household bills, or seeking any available other resources or other essential services, please visit 211.org or dial 211 from your phone. 211 is a nationwide number, and it is available in 180 languages. It is completely confidential, and it is accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. CalFresh applications are being accepted over the phone for residents who need help buying food. Second, contact the Second Harvest Food Bank Connection Hotline at 800-984-3663. Work to the Future, in collaboration with the San Jose City College, will be hosting a virtual job fair on Wednesday, April 29th, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. For more information, please visit their website, work2future.org. work2future.org. Again, work2future.org. The Red Cross is in desperate need of donors. The need for blood is constant, and volunteer donors are the only source of blood to meet those needs. Donating blood is a safe process, and people should not hesitate to give or receive blood. If you are healthy and feeling well, please make an appointment to donate by using either the Red Cross Blood Donor app or by visiting redcrossblood.org or call 800-RED-CROSS. The Santa Clara County Library District has resources for students and families while distant learning. There are many online resources for students, including homework help, tutoring, test preparation, research tools, not to mention academic videos, articles, ebooks, and so much more. Please visit their website at sccld.org. The Chamber of Commerce Foundation is providing support to local businesses and communities. Please visit them at campbellchamberfoundation.org/Campbell-cares. We have created an email for you to share all the photos that you have of you and your family wearing all the beautiful face masks and face coverings that people have been sewing themselves. If you would like, please share your photo at face-coverings at campbellca.gov. Cecil, can we clarify if it's face-coverings or just face coverings?
It's face covering. We remove that to remove the complexity.
What? So there's no dash. Okay, so face coverings as it's shown on your slide. Please continue to visit the city website at campbellca.gov for up-to-date information on COVID-19, adjusted city services, canceled events, police department services in the Campbell Community Center, and other business resources. I have one other announcement to make. On Saturday, Governor Gavin Newsom came to Campbell and announced a major new agreement with Motel 6. All of the chain's corporate-owned locations will now be available to counties as additional capacity for housing the homeless. The agreement between the state, the county, and the motel is expected to be finalized by the end of the week. The program is statewide, and the governor's goal is to house 15,000 vulnerable people throughout the state through a program called Room Keys. The plan will include at each hotel an on-site social services person, an on-site security person, and 3 square meals a day will be delivered to the people staying at Motel 6. Once the agreement has been finalized, the county will start arranging for staff. This may take a few more days. Day-to-day operations will be part of the agreement. I reached out to the county's liaison requesting additional information. My questions include, how will they address keeping the people if they are tested positive to shelter in place? I have found out since then that no COVID positive patients will be, or people will be at these hotels. This is just for people that are unhoused. I asked how many rooms of the hotel would be used, how long this program will be in place, and are there any other future plans for housing people long-term? And if the city is needing to have increased police services, will the city receive any funding reimbursement? Supervisor Chavez's office has been contacted, and we will continue to coordinate with her office as we move forward. Any additional information will be provided in a few days. And once we have information, we will be updating our website. Councilmember Waterman?
Yeah, I talked quite a bit to our city manager about this today, and obviously there's a huge amount of traffic on the various social media about this, and we are talking about a Motel 6 in Campbell. So I think it's important. This is certainly a policy issue. I'm not saying whether I'm against it, for it. That's longer, but there's a lot of protocol issues that need defining, so-called rules about how this is going to work. obviously this isn't the time or the place, but if they're talking about implementing this in Campbell in the next couple weeks, I think we need to talk about this as a council, and we need to hear from our community about it. I know there's a lot of comments. One of the I talked to Jim Aspinwall. I know he sent us all an email, and we had a really good discussion. So I know we need to understand. You made a list of the state and the county, and I know Sam Licardo was there, but I didn't hear anything about Campbell's input. I don't just want a sort of a secretive meeting with our city manager and mayor. I didn't mean that disrespect.
Okay.
I meant more. This is a council issue. There's a lot of policy protocol issues as to how this is going to work. I know this isn't the time or the place, but I certainly want it agendized sooner than later before we agree to let them take over in any shape or form the Motel 6. And that's not against it.
So I was notified on Friday night at 7:30 that Gavin Newsom would be in Campbell at noon the next day. I contacted the police department and our city manager immediately. We showed up early to ask questions. The plan is a work in progress. It was very much done at the last minute of which motel this would be, the announcement would be made at. At this point, the contract has not been signed with the hotel. And as I stated, they are going to have on-site social services, on-site security, and meals would be provided. That was the only information that we were available on Saturday. I've since corresponded with the county supervisor's office, with both Susan Ellenberg's and Cindy Chavez's office. In addition to the questions I've read, I have been forwarding some of the other emails that we've received. 2 people have requested that we have some type of town hall meeting. And until such time as we know that the contract will be signed with this specific hotel, and 2, what the details of that agreement are, I don't know that we can hold a town hall meeting. But as soon as we get that information, this is something that we will be discussed further. So
yeah, I don't mean town hall, but before anyone in our city signs anything agreeing to this, it needs to be presented to the council in a more formal, including members of the public able to give their input. Not a town hall, but a town hall sounds like they will present it and the community has to accept it. I think we have to understand it a lot more.
at this point, the city is not signing any agreement. This is strictly between the county of Santa Clara, the state of California, and Motel 6. We have not been asked to sign any agreement at all. And again, we don't have any other specifics beyond what I've already announced. Councilmember Resnikoff?
Yes, thank you. So I think you answered one piece of it, which is we haven't signed, but it doesn't sound like we would be party to it anyway.
We're not signing. We have
and this
not
is
been
not our
told.
decision.
Right.
My second one is you said something interesting that they didn't even know where it was going to be that night. So everything I've read has been Motel 6 as a chain, actually. So more than this one hotel. If they didn't know where it was going to be and it was going to be in Campbell, they're in discussions with other hotels in Campbell?
No. So this agreement is a statewide agreement between corporate Motel 6. The issue was the Motel 6 that they were looking at hosting the event in Campbell was not a corporate motel. And so they changed on Friday night or Friday afternoon. They changed because the Campbell Motel on Kirtner is a old maintained and managed by corporate. So again, we are not signing anything. We have not been asked to sign anything. This is an agreement at the corporate level throughout the whole entire state of California. And again, it is only the Motel 6s at this point that the corporation manages.
You've clarified it. I misunderstood, thought you meant Motel 6 versus another hotel. It was, in fact, which Motel 6? Thank you.
Correct. And the one that they had been working with when it was determined, because that specific one was not a corporate managed motel, that they would come to one that was. And just for information, immediately following the press conference, I did go to the 6 homes that are located back behind the wall. There's a 2-story wall with no windows, and there's approximately 6 houses that are immediately adjacent to it. And I did speak individually to every single person. One, I had to leave a note on the door into great detail, but I did contact them. I also contacted the chair or president of the Campbell Village Neighborhood Association, and I did speak with several other people in the neighborhood. So we've been trying to stay very proactive on this. And as soon as the information is available, we will be releasing any information. And it probably will not be before the end of the week. And it then will, additionally, it will take several days for them to get their staff together and get people that are coming in. And I just want to reiterate that nobody that is COVID positive will be staying at this hotel at this point. Okay, do we have any other questions from council? No. Okay, that's the end of the mayor's announcements. Thank you.
Mayor Landry,
Yes.
we have had a communication come in under oral requests. So before you start consent, would you like me to read that?
Okay, we are past there, but I guess we can go back. Okay, so back to oral request. Go ahead.
It says, I am a homeowner and happy Campbell resident for over 15 years. Today, we're saddened to find out the city of Campbell has ordered Flight's restaurant to close the no-contact curbside grocery service. This is rather upsetting for our family, as we have used this service several times to replenish fresh milk and other perishables for our preschool and kindergarten kids. It also reduces my exposure to COVID-19, being an adult with a long history of asthma. I serve on the board of directors for an environmental organization in the Bay Area. I was readying a message to motivate the organization to find our Holt moment during this trying times. In stark contrast with the city's stance, Alex Holt is frequently commended in conversations around the house as a source of inspiration and benchmark of innovation, even though we don't know him personally. If anything, his actions should be applauded. I hereby urge the city officials to reevaluate their decision regarding Flight's family market. Thanks, Jose Ramirez.
Okay, thank you. And we are prohibited from having any lengthy discussion on open forum and oral request. This has been brought to my attention, and it has been brought to the community development director. And I would ask that the city manager do follow up on this. Do you need more information, Brian?
No, we'll on this.
Okay, I see Councilmember Gibbons.
Yes, thank you. I just would like to ask staff, when they work their way through this, hopefully very quickly, that it's provided a memo so that we have the correct information.
Okay, we will do that.
We will do
Thank
that.
you. Okay, any other, I don't see any other hands here. All right, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Please note that because we are not all in the same room, all votes for this meeting will be taken by roll call. Are there any other council members or city staff that would like to pull an item from the consent calendar?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
this is Brian, the city manager here. Is our recommendation on item 6 that we pull that item tonight? When this was placed on the agenda, we had full anticipation the contractor had the ability at the price that we expected to execute this, and we were having difficulties in those discussions. So it's my recommendation we pull that item for the time being.
Which item? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
It's item number 6. It's the lighting of the water tower. I had asked that we follow what's happening nationwide, that we light the water tower blue, and we were going to do it on Sundays. But it has since been brought to my attention that the circuit board and controls that had gone out back in February have not been completely set up. And at this point, there's some contract negotiations going on what cost it'll be and when they can do it. So the city manager has recommended we don't take action tonight and let him work through the contract. Councilmember Resnikoff?
Yeah, quick question, please. So does this impact the lightings that are already scheduled, because in mid-May, we have blue for National Peace Officers Memorial Day during that week. Will that go on regardless?
That is my understanding right now, Councilmember Resnikoff, but we are going to be following up with the contractor because this was somewhat of a surprise to us today to understand where we are in this process. So we'll follow up with you. My understanding is the regular scheduled lighting should be able to proceed without issue.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have items one through 5. No, 1 through 4. I'm sorry, the numbering's off on my, hang on here a second.
1 through 5, Madam Mayor.
Okay, the printed agenda says 2 through 5. There's no item 1 on the printed
I'm
agenda.
sorry, I stand corrected. Item 1 was your proclamation. It is items 2 through 5.
Okay, great, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move consent items 2 through 5.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please, City Clerk.
Councilmember Waterman,
Aye.
Councilmember Bybee. Aye. Councilmember Resnikoff,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gibbons,
Aye.
Mayor Landry.
Aye. The next item on the agenda is public hearing and introduction of ordinances, and there is none agendized. The next item is new business, item number 7. To receive an update on initial fiscal and budgetary impacts due to COVID-19 and provide staff with feedback regarding recommended strategies in fiscal year 2019-20 and fiscal year 20-21 to address these impacts. To the community, if there is anyone who wishes to comment on these items, please submit your comments now to clerks with the S office at campbellca.gov. Emails received prior to the close of public comment period will be read for the record. I would like to now have our Finance Director, Will Fuentes, present.
All right. Good evening, council. I will attempt to share my screen. So just give me one second to share the screen. Okay, just give me 1 second on
Okay,
that.
while you're doing that, I would just like to say to our council, this is not a recommended specific action. The action is to receive the update. It will be treated a little more like a study session where we can be making comments. And then at the end, I will summarize the council comments. And then that would be to provide staff with our feedback. Go ahead, Will.
All right. So, again, thank you to the council. I'm here tonight to give the council an update on the fiscal impacts of COVID-19 in both the current year current year 1920 and also any anticipated impacts in fiscal year 2021, which will be coming up in July. It's also to go over some potential approaches to address any of the impacts in both the current year and also any of the impacts in the upcoming year as well. And the purpose of tonight is to open up the discussion. I don't expect that we will address all problems, and that I will be able to address all questions, and that we will solve the whole problem tonight. But it's really to open up the discussion and to get the input from the council about our potential ideas to address the problems and the impacts. And then we'll also continue any discussions on next Tuesday night on April 22, and also on April 28th, and also on May 22 as well. So in regards to COVID-19 itself, the one thing that really needs to be understood by both the council and the public is that the economic impacts that could come from a COVID are much different than anything that this country's seen for quite some time. You could go back to the Great Recession of 08, but it's also a lot different as well. And you really need to go back to 1918 to come anywhere near close. And the one thing that is the one thing that really needs to be taken into account is there are many things that are unknown. There's a high degree of uncertainty. There are a shelter in place in effect. We don't yet know when the country, the county, and the state will open up again. And when they do open up, we don't quite know yet how that will look. The state of the economy prior to COVID was quite strong. So I think that bodes well for the state and also for Campbell. And there are people who are hopeful that once the economy opens up again, that there will be a quick recovery. But it is still an unknown. If you take the economy through the end of December, we for sure will not see any GDP growth in Q1. And we for sure will see a downturn in Q2. But again, due to the strong state of the economy prior to COVID, there is a chance that if things open up again, and people are comfortable going out to eat, if they're comfortable in going out to shop, then there is the potential that it could be a quick recovery. but it also depends upon will there be an outbreak again in either the fall or in the future. And again, I mean, how comfortable will people be to go out and eat again, to go out into the crowds, and to make a big of purchases as well. So although we stay hopeful, there are again a bunch of unknowns. So we do need to be cautious. In terms of Campbell, I came to the council on March 3, and at the time I told the council that I expected everything to be okay, and for our income projections in the general fund to be about 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 57.26 million in a total. But again, due to a COVID, we for sure will see some impacts both in the current year and also potentially into the future. The one big tax that likely won't see an impact yet, and it likely won't see any type of impact until 21-22 is our up property taxes. They aren't expected to decrease, and we should get everything that we expect in both the current year and also in the upcoming year as well. But there are also Campbell income streams that will see an impact upfront. Although our hotels are all open, they've all seen reduced occupancy rates. They've all decreased their room rates. So there will be an upfront impact to TOT and also several other Campbell income items as well. In terms of total estimated impact in 1920, I currently estimate about a $4.96 million impact. It's an 8.8% impact over the entire year, and about a 31% impact in Q2 of 2020. So it is an item that we for sure need to address, and there are a couple of options that a council could choose to do and to give input on tonight. So there are a number of tools that we're able to put into our toolbox. We've all already put into place a number of these tools. And there are also some other options that I'm hoping to get council's input on tonight. I suggest that we use the emergency reserve to a certain extent. But I also don't suggest that we use the whole amount either. I think that we need to take everything together so that we can take a comprehensive approach, but also in case there are any in case there are any emergencies in the future, that we don't totally deplete our reserve funds as well. I do also suggest that we attempt to contain any cost that we can now, because it will help us to get out out of the COVID escalate curve. But right now, the economy as a whole is on a pause. So while I suggest that we curtail expenses if we can and defer anything that we can, I'm also cautious in that I'm not proposing any big permanent cuts right now, just because we don't yet know enough about the economic impact of COVID. And if we put into place any big cuts right now, they could have a permanent impact on Campbell, and it could mean that our recovery and our recovery in the future is slower. So at this particular point, I will take a pause and get the council's input on the ideas and the concepts to address the problem in the current year, and then I will go on to the upcoming year in 2021.
Sorry, I was on mute. At this point, this is questions for Will. And then Deputy City Clerk, have we received any comments so far?
We have,
Andrea?
yes, we have received earlier today from Steve Saunders, but we have not received anything additional.
Okay, so does the council have questions? I'm trying to see if so let's start with Councilmember Waterman and then go to Vice Mayor Gibbons.
Yeah,
Hopefully you can hear me. I just took off from mute. So this will probably intersect with the next part of the presentation, but so from a strategy point, which I agree with, you're saying let's not keep making changes, let's just wait. But on the flip side to that, which is what we're seeing in the economy right now, it creates a lot of month-to-month uncertainty if we say, well, let's just wait 6 months, and everybody's going to start to get nervous at that point. So I'm just wondering your thoughts, Will, on how often we should be updating. Obviously, this one's almost done because it's June, but it's kind of the same thing, June versus the next fiscal year. Do we try to get together every couple months and keep fine tuning it? Is it better just to wait, every quarter, every 6 months? Any thoughts on that?
Well, for sure, we will need to discuss the upcoming budget and the upcoming capital plan. So there will be the opportunities to talk in both May and June. And then I would propose that I either do an update every a month or every 2 months. I expect to come back to a council again in the fall, in either October or April as well, to discuss any budget adjustments that we may need to do to 2021. But I do also agree that we need to stay on top of a problem and take the steps to adjust. There are changes that are coming out every a day, and it's a thing that we'll need to adjust to. So we'll again talk in May and June for sure. But if it's the council's desire, I can also give an update each a month or every 2 months and begin it in July.
Any more questions, Councilmember Waterman? Otherwise, we'll go to Vice Mayor Gibbons.
Say the majority of my comments to the discussion point, but I do have one question. The 4.98 or whatever it is million, that assumes that all existing staff, all existing contracts, all existing consultants remain the same. The only thing that's taken out is what you identified in one of your earlier slides.
Correct. So it assumes that that all of our costs stay the same. All of our costs stay the same through the end of June. So any steps that we are able to take to contain costs in both the current year and also in the upcoming year will help to offset the potential income loss.
Thank you.
Any other council member have questions? Andrea, now is the time to read our one email we received.
Okay. Dear Campbell City Council members, thanks to the city staff for the report on initial fiscal and budgetary impacts due to COVID-19. It covers a lot of my concerns, but I would like to understand a couple of the FY 2019-20 impacts in a little more detail. The impact on sales tax was smaller than I had guessed by significant factor, 1.2 million. Hopefully this indicates, besides maybe too pessimistic, that local sales tax generating businesses are not impacted nearly as badly as I had assumed, and or sales tax collections are more seasonal than assumed. It would be nice to understand that projection in a bit more detail. The impact on transient occupancy tax was larger than I had guessed or could calculate given the occupancy and room rate reductions given in the report, 300,000 to 500,000. Perhaps was the impact was projected for a longer period, 3 to 4 months. Also,
I've lost Andrea. Are you there still? Does anybody else hear her? I don't hear her.
No,
can you hear me?
Now you're back.
Okay.
but you'll have to back up on the letter.
Go back to the TOT part.
The impact on transit occupancy tax was larger than I had guessed or could calculate given the occupancy and room rate reductions given in the report, 300,000 to 500,000. Perhaps the impact was projected for a longer period, 3 to 4 months. Also, I want to compliment the use of Great Recession data to provide insight for fiscal year 2021. I, being of somewhat pessimistic mindset, would suggest using the 7.1 million projected negative revenue impact in FY 2021 planning. Thank you for your service and take care, Steve Saunders.
Okay, do we have any other correspondence?
No, we do not.
Okay, so at this point, if we have no council questions, then Will, you can continue into the next part of your presentation.
So I beg your pardon?
Yes.
Thank you. Just in terms of this, okay, so I was expecting to have a discussion on this part now. So you want to hold all the discussion to the end?
I was thinking we would hold it all to the end unless the council wants to have the discussion at this point.
I'll leave it, but I'm thinking that I appreciate the fact that the discussion is being divided into the 1920 year and the 2021 year, because I think that's extremely important. So I would like to make comment. I can hold them to the end, but I thought it would be better to do it now, but I'll leave it up to the group.
Why don't we wait and let Will finish? And then if we need to, we can go back to the slides he has right now. Is that okay, Liz? Go ahead, Will.
All right. So I will continue onwards and stuff. I'm here. And then we also can continue the hot questions and the discussion at the end. And I will return to any screen that you would want to see. Okay. All right. So jumping into 2021 and the upcoming budget up year. To come up to the total amount that we could expect to lose in our income streams. I did go back to 08, and I took all the different income groups, compared the different income groups to what to what to what to what we pro- what we projected to what we projected to achieve in in 2021 prior to COVID and I applied a reduction and by taking that type of approach it is again an initial estimated potential loss in 2021 of between a five of $5.4 million and a 7.1. But I mean again COVID-19 is a lot different than 08. And 08 can give us a general a general ballpark to go from and to talk about. But the economic impacts of COVID could be either a better or a worse. The economy the economy could recover quickly, or it also could be impacted over the next 1 to 2 years. So it's also something to take into account as well. And then turning over to the upcoming budget year. There are also a number of approaches that we oppose. Again, to a certain extent, we oppose dipping into a reserve fund to cover our ongoing expenses, but also at the same time containing costs to the greatest extent that we are able to. We would propose to scale back the capital plan to only the products that are truly crucial and that we need to do. But again, we're proposing that instead of hitting the delete button and putting into place a big cuts now that could have a bigger impact to how we serve the public. That we instead hit the pause button and either defer any expenses that we can, defer any projects that we can, and contain costs to the best extent that we are able to over the next couple of months through either October or before. And then, I mean, once we know a bit more about the true economic impact of COVID, that we return to a council in either October or before to talk about if we need to do any uh, 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 any type of other adjustments that 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 should be up to and including cuts. So I will continue. I will continue onwards, and then we can then go to a discussion and questions at the end.
Okay,
So there 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 are also some potential of state and of federal. There are some potential state and of federal aid options out there. We 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 may be able to recover a, a bit of our direct costs from the FEMA PAP program, but anything that we are able to recover, I don't expect that it will come upfront. I expect that we would be paid in in two to 3 years into the future. And also, although the CARES Act did provide a certain amount to public agencies, just due to our size, Campbell doesn't currently they they we aren't able to get aid under the current CARES Act. There is a talk that there could be additional bills in the future that could give aid to public agencies of all sizes, but it's still uncertain, and it is still an unknown. But we're paying attention, and we will apply to get any aid that opens up either now or into the future. So in terms of the budget process, we were on a track, and things were all set to go prior to COVID, and then I think the same with all companies and people that everything got a turn upside down. But we still intend to introduce a budget and a capital plan to the council on June 2, and also go for a budget adoption on June the 16th. Is just the way that we get to June in both April and May is now a lot different. So with that, that I will end, and I will open it up to discussion and questions.
okay, I have one quick question to start. Is the numbers that you've been giving assume that the positions that are open right now are going to stay unfilled? You had 2.57 million and then 556,500 in the hiring freeze.
So the part the part the part the part-time temp amount uh, does does assume that they would be unfilled through the end of June. But if we were to also open up our a rec if if we were to open up our rec department and our camps again in either June or May, any costs that we would incur are also offset by anything that we would charge to to open up the camps or to run the courses. It's not a 100% offset, but it's close. And then in terms of the full-time jobs, the amount that you see, it's a amount it's an amount over a in, in, entire year as well. So if we're only talking about the current year in 1920, then it's a 25% of the amount that you see on the screen that we could hope to save if we kept open the full-time jobs from now through the end of June.
Okay. I was going to open it up to see if, Andrea, do we have any other comments received?
We do not.
Okay, so I'll return it back to council. Do you want to go to your last slide, Will?
Yeah, I will again. Thank you.
Okay, so we've received an update. Now we would need to provide staff with feedback. So I'll be writing down comments here that I hear from council. And then when we're done, I'll summarize and so that we have direction or feedback to staff.
All right, sounds great. Thank you so much.
So let's start with Vice Mayor Gibbons. You had comments regarding 1920. I'm sorry, who said that? Someone said something. Vice Mayor Gibbons, you want to go back? We're going to do 1920 first.
Okay, so I need to go back to the other slides if we may. Okay, so I'll appreciate that this is an update. We're going to have more conversations. So my first observation is I am going to be a pessimist about what we're going to be going through, what we currently are going through, and what we will be going through for the next few years. So I think that the assumptions here are too rosy. I don't think they're realistic in what we really have to deal with. And the conclusion that we may or may not need we may need a certain amount of reserve funds to cover this situation makes me very uncomfortable. That should be our last resort. not our first resort, which is what I see in this presentation. So I would say that it's really important for the analysis to understand that we are, in essence, the city is in essence a nonprofit. We cannot make money on our services. We charge fees to provide services. And if people aren't coming to request services, we aren't going to have those fees. And I think that analysis needs more rigor. I also think the sales tax analysis rigor. I think that gasoline tax is an interesting one. I listened to a seminar from the League of Cities this week, and they explained the gas tax, and I very clearly that the Measure 1 SB 1 tax is an excise tax. I think that's the correct phrase. So that goes forward no matter what. It's not a percentage like a sales tax. But the cost, the amount of gas being sold, and the value of the cost of the gas tax, I think needs a very critical analysis, because that's going to impact our ability to do road work. The sales tax being held back by the governor's ordinance to allow people to defer sales tax for several months, I think needs to be part of the analysis. That's where Measure B and the road funds from that could be impacting our work. So I'm looking to have more of a discussion on that. I'm not necessarily agreeing with the hiring freeze of the 12 positions identified. I think some of those positions may need to be filled. And I think that needs a discussion. So I have, one is I would like a copy of the presentation. I think that would help us going forward to our meeting next Tuesday. I would like to ask that the meeting next Tuesday, the 28th, have an agenda that is something along the lines of maybe 3 parts. I've sent a lot of questions to staff during the preceding weeks, and I was in discussion with the city manager, told a lot of them should be discussed as special sessions. And so I'm suggesting that on Tuesday we have a closed door portion of the meeting, and then we have the 2019-20 budget discussion, and then the 2021 discussion. And I do think for that meeting, we need to have a good understanding of staffing levels and business contacts and what people in our business community are saying, and also have a discussion of potential new revenue, and finally special projects that the city is going under. So I'd like to see some kind of an agenda that tells us what we really need to get through next Tuesday, because as Will said, it's not an ordinary meeting. So those are my thoughts on that. I also think we need to, you have one of your options was to take out a FEMA loan. I think FEMA loans are a good option as an advance to cover things that we know we're going to get money for. Sorry, I said that backwards. Using reserves is a good option to get to front end the funds that we know we're going to get back, such as FEMA funding. I'm not big on doing a FEMA loan at this point, but I'm need to think about that some more. I do think we need to look at our expenditures now for the rest of the year. I think we need to look at them hard and see what we can hunker down on now. I would rather come out of June 30th with a really tight belt and lost some weight, so that we have a better sense of where we need to go and more flexibility next year. I think next year is when we're going to need to hit the reserves, not this year. That's my take. That's my pessimism showing. And I think I said this, but I'll repeat it. that this downturn is not, and I've been at an ABAG meeting and also listened in on a BACA Bay Area Air Quality Management District meeting. They are not predicting rosy revenues for several years out. And they are both saying that this is not like the 2008 downturn or even the 2003 downturn. This is closer to the 1918 downturn. So those are things that are coming to my mind that I think are, I think we need to tighten our belt now, is what I'm trying to say. I don't think it's going to be over soon. Could we go to your slide on 2021 just to make sure I've covered everything?
Councilmember Gibbons, I see some other hands coming up about 1920.
Okay.
Can I have, I see Councilmember Waterman raising his hand.
Sure.
And so let's finish
I'd like to come
1920
to
first.
I just like to
Rich?
come to 21.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
I would like at some point to come back to 2021.
Yes, but Rich looks like he had questions on 1920. Councilmember Waterman?
I don't know. I thought we had questions. There's more comments. So a lot of what Council or Vice Mayor Gibbons said, I do agree with. I don't know. We're talking about people that we're cutting at some point sooner than later. We need to get in the discussion maybe of what I was saying before is I do agree. We at least got to prepare, and most likely, maybe I am, as a lot of people would say, a pessimist. That's what happens with CPAs. That we do need to be really careful here. You know, when we went through this 10 years ago, I was part of that, and a lot of cities, you know, Stockton and Richmond, and we can go on, went bankrupt, and we got to be careful here. So not only just talking about people that we're hiring or not hiring, but the issue of taking an overall look of, does the city really need X, Y, Z? I know it's a really sensitive subject, but we do have a lot of things that I would say excess property that we don't need. We have rentals that we're not charging fair market rental for. We have football fields and soccer fields that we don't charge market rate for. We could go on, and you know, we've got a huge amount of different things. And if we bring up the subjects, I know a lot of people get quite sensitive to it, but I think as a council, we have to take some tough look at and tough love at the things that aren't truly at the core of what the city does, and get to that discussion possibly sooner than later. I'm sure we can get through the fiscal year probably okay, but if it looks like we're not going to have a V and this thing's going to look like more like an L and only gradually come forward, and we're going to have quite a bit of losses going into next fiscal year, I think we have to take some hard looks again, not necessarily at people, but at sections of the city. And is this something that's a core of the city, or can we do without it? And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just go through the different council members. Let's see who's next in my pictures. Councilmember Bybee, do you have any questions or comments?
Generally, I concur with Councilmember Gibbons and Councilmember Waterman. I do believe that we probably need to use some type of our emergency reserve fund to get through this fiscal year. But I also really stress that we need to do cost containment to the extent we can, reducing expenditures. And in talking to the city manager, it sounds like we've done that pretty much to the extent that that it's this we're only expending for essential purchases. I think it's really important to tighten the belt now to try and get us through this fiscal year, and that I without having to do drastic cuts to programs and services, I think we would need to use some of the reserves. And as far as the hiring freeze, I agree that some of those positions I do think would need to be filled, and that's going to involve a broader discussion.
Hey, Councilmember, are you done? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all I have for FY20.
Sorry, there's a little lag here. Councilmember Resnikoff?
Thank you. So let me be general for both years in a sense. So it's funny how the pictures change. I can't see Will anymore, but I assume he's there. I think, well, thank you. It's a good job. I think we have to be understanding that there's so much unknown here. So whatever comes up in this type of analysis is just really some intelligent guesses. But I think you did a good job. I think there's a lot more consensus here amongst us than I expected. There's so much unknown. I too tend to be somewhat of a pessimist because I'd rather be surprised pleasantly later than find out I underestimated and all of a sudden we have a disaster. That being said, I really hesitate to go deep into reserves early on. The reason being, we have examples of the Great Recession and all that. Throw it out the door. We don't know if this is the same. This could be 3 years instead of a 4-month recovery or something. We don't know. And to tap into those reserves too early and not have them later, that might be a bigger disaster than really tightening the belt now. So I worry about how much we dip into those because I don't think the 2009 or so recovery was very fast to the reserve. I don't know that we're going to have that now. I think an important thing to remember is, I think the vice mayor mentioned, we're a nonprofit essentially, so we're not out there to make a lot of money. So to me, looking at the county side, the P&L doesn't matter in a way. What matters is the balance sheet and cash flow. And we could have, for example, we could not lose the amount of sales tax we think we're going to lose, but if they let it be paid out a year, it doesn't help us because we don't have it to spend. So we have to look at balance sheet, cash flow, and that's where the only disagreement I have, probably biggest disagreement with the vice mayor, is the FEMA loans may be a good deal. I mean, if we have a 1% money out there and it gets us through cash flow and we don't, I get the idea, use the reserves and get the loans to pay them back, or just use the loan. It's such cheap money if it is. I think that's a consideration, and just start projecting out the cash flows of sales tax, maybe not going down as much as we hope it doesn't, but moved out and we don't have access to them. Unfortunately, right, it's not like the property tax, which we get now regardless, but that could change too. The state could easily, or the county could easily decide we can't pay every city and get paid back later on penalties. We don't have the money. So we got to be careful about that too, I think. And last comment is, I think it's a little early and we'll have the discussion in another meeting, hiring freezes, other expenses and all that. I think the reality is, Councilmember Waterman just mentioned some previously untouchables. We have a field here, we have a building. Everything's on the table, I think. We have to have everything on the table, and we have to look at hiring freezes, but also some other cost savings and what doesn't have cost recovery. It's going to be some interesting, very hard, very painful discussions, but we have to do them with a few-year viewpoint, I think. I just don't have a good feel that 6 months down the road or 6 months after all we think this is all over, we're just back and running. I think there are long-term behavioral changes in people here, and they're not going to run back to life as normal. So anyway, in conclusion there, let's look at, when we look at expenses, let's look at cash flows and what we have to do to keep our essential services first and put everything else on the table, and really be willing to do things in the past we just wouldn't dare think about. And I don't mean that to sound dire. I think we have to look at the long-term future of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. So I agree with everything that's been said. I'm one that says plan for the worst and hopefully something better will happen. But if we don't plan for the absolute worst case, we're going to get caught off guard. Regarding the FEMA loans, to me, that is a possibility if it is a low rate. I also, today, there was another bill that was passed that's going to be voted on with some stimulus money, but from what I've heard so far, nothing for local governments. So I would just say let's keep following what's going on. I think we need to do as much as we can now. We have April, May, 2.5 months left in this fiscal year. If there's any savings that we can get, that would be great. I do want to be very, very cautious using any reserves, and I would hope that we could get that into 2021 budget. I did have a question for our city manager. I had been asking about staff time and what we're doing right now. It doesn't appear that everybody has a 40-hour week, and I wanted to know if you have any feedback on that right now. And then I also, I think that we do definitely need to tighten our belt several notches. The hiring freeze, I do think there are some positions that we will need to fill. The question will be when, because it does save us some money. And let's see what else here. I would agree with Vice Mayor Gibbons' comments regarding the agenda having it be broke out like we did tonight, the 1920 fiscal year and the 2021. And then I'm not sure about what we would do during a closed session, but I would support that we did have one. So I think that's it for now. Brian, can you make any comments on staff at this point?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is Brian Loventhal, your city manager. For our full-time staff, we have implemented a, emergency telework policy that would allow for the potential for employees that have essential work to do that can be done from home to be able to do that. As a piece of that we're requiring agreements between the employee and the city through an application process for all of those telework situations that their supervisors will closely monitor and be able to schedule the amount of work for that employee based on the workload. If those employees either in the office or through teleworking do not have 40 hours of work week, they have been required to begin using leave balances to compensate for that additional time. That will have some long-term cost savings for the city, as those leave balances are reducing some liability the city would have to pay those expenses over time.
Okay, and let me see, I had another question now. Oh, lost my train of thought here on my other question. Oh, you had mentioned about the family leave and the, what was it, 80 hours that they can use? What was can you explain that to us?
Yes, the federal government has required that employers, much like the city of Campbell, offer emergency family sick leave and offer emergency family medical leave. And so we will offer those to employees that do qualify. They do have to qualify under certain categories for that. And there is limitations on what that payout is for those. In some cases, it's not the full rate or full hourly rate that the employees would normally earn.
And what have we, I know with the emergency ordinance that we passed, we're tracking hours. Is there projections of what we may be able to get back from FEMA because of this?
Yeah, right now, our understanding, Will, you can jump in when I'm done here, is that FEMA reimbursement is for overtime or direct costs that are related to this. So, for instance, if we were to have to purchase a disinfecting appliance for our police vehicles or for City Hall, or we have to purchase protective equipment for our employees, those would be costs that we would seek a reimbursement for, and we're prepared to do that, as well as any overtime cost in any of our departments. We have not yet been able to confirm availability of funds to pay for normal staff time or costs.
Okay, great, thank you. Does any other council member now have additional questions or comments? I don't see any.
Me.
Oh, the pictures don't show up all at once, so I have to keep scrolling up and down to see who's raising their hand. Go ahead, Council or Vice Mayor Givens. Liz, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be brief. I thought all the conversation has been thoughtful and pretty consistent, which is great to hear. The conversation on the FEMA using it to help with cash flow was a very good one. I hadn't thought of that one. I did just tie in at the County Board of Supervisors meeting this afternoon. They're actually talked about this teeter rule where they pay us our property tax and then they take the penalties. They're talking about either eliminating the penalties or cutting them in half. And there's all kinds of implications for cities down the line. So things that could change, that's one of them. So I thought that was useful. Let's see. I had another note here, but I don't know where I put it. So I'm looking forward to Tuesday's meeting where we can get into the nitty gritty and meat and the details of all the assumptions that are in this analysis so that we can figure out what it is we really want to do. So thank you. I think it was a very good start. As the phrase goes, lots more questions come up. So thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Will and staff. Very thorough, I think, based on what we have to date. I know there's assumptions in there. So my question to Brian and Will, do I need to go back right now and summarize our comments? I did take notes, or do you have what you need regarding our feedback?
I think I've got everything that I need. I did also take down a notes. And so I think I understand the council's input. And some items to discuss next Tuesday in regards to 1920. But is there any other input on upcoming year 2021 as well, or did the council's comments and questions cover each year?
Well, I'll put in the comment of when we go into next week on Tuesday, the 28th, what projects and other things are we in the middle of? And if we decide to stop them, which I know right now a lot of capital improvement projects has stopped, but what have we spent to date? And what would it take to restart it up later? Are we going to end up incurring double the cost later by saving tens of thousands right now? Is it going to cost us hundreds later? So as we talk about projects and what we're going to carry over into 2021, it'd be good to know kind of where we are year to date, and just be, understand that if we do put it on hold or keep it on hold for any length of time, what's going to take to bring that back later. I would like more information next week on where the staff time is. I know this has been just recent that people are signing these contracts and agreements because staff is a large chunk of our expenses, and it would be good to know what we may save by the end of the year, but also what the implications of that are. So that would be good from my perspective. I think we all, from what I've heard us say, is plan for the worst. Hopefully something better will happen. But most of us are pessimists, and we want to get the full impact as soon as we can. So I thank you again, Will. Very good presentation and staff. Anybody else have any closing comments?
Yes, I do.
Anne?
With regard to the FY21 budget, I think that we need to come back sooner than October with a corrective budgetary actions. I think that's pushing it a little bit. I think we need to come back sooner.
So our budget would be approved by the end of June, and then typically August is an off month. Would you want us then to come back in July or after August?
Well, one of the discussion items is the bullet item is return to council in October or before with corrective budgetary actions given certain revenue loss thresholds. I think we need to do that sooner than October.
So in July, because our budget will be approving the budget in June.
1st of July,
1st of July.
Right.
or September.
To me,
So-
it seems like it could be done in conjunction with the budget. I mean, we should be looking forward to what our corrective budget strategy is going to be. Sooner than
Okay. So by the July 1st, we have our corrected budget, we have budget strategy, and then a month, we maybe once a month come back to us. So we would have an update in July. And then if we have no council meeting in August, we'd have updates in September and then each month.
Well, I guess I'm a little confused as to what the budget that comes on July 1 is going to entail, whether it's going to be a status quo budget, and if we're going to be doing corrective strategies after the fact. I think we need to do it sooner than October. And I'll leave that to staff to determine.
My understanding is starting next week, we're looking at corrective budget. That's part of what our strategy for next Tuesday is how are we going to be, what are we going to cut from the budget? What are we going to have to pare down?
May I?
Councilmember or Vice Mayor Gibbons?
So I think I'm agreeing with Councilmember Bybee that we have two separate tasks. Next week, I think we're going to do a lot of focusing on the 1920 budget to get us to the end of the year. And that will set the basis for a corrected 2021 budget starting in July 1st. It won't be, in my thought process, it will not be a status quo budget for 2021. It will begin with the belt tightening going forward. And then we would have an update in September to see if we tightened it enough.
My understanding is next Tuesday, we're going to start looking at tightening it for the budget. I would want to see by May.
For the 1920, from the 2019 to 2020 is yes. And then the second part of that meeting would be the 20 to 21. Yes.
Next Tuesday, we are discussing both.
Yes.
Yes. And so when we get into May to the actual budget meetings, we are going to be paring down and looking at the budget.
Yes.
You're not waiting till July.
Right. And I have to say, I don't think that waiting till May 22nd is a good idea, but we'll find that out when we meet on Tuesday.
I agree. And I don't know that we want to wait that long either, but we will be able to discuss that next week and then decide how much sooner we want to meet. Okay, any other, I'm scrolling up and down everybody's picture here. Councilmember Resnikoff, I think you're waving your hand at me.
Thank you. So I guess to answer Will's question, my comments, Will, were more general for both years. But that being said, I think we just have to recognize, like we talked about before, we don't know what's coming. This is so unknown, and we don't know the time frame. That's the worst part, recovery time frame. So I think we just need to be flexible. Whatever we come up with for, to the 2021, I think we're not going to have just one mid-year. We may have to come back over time and address some big shortfalls or just changes that we didn't anticipate. So I would just request flexibility there that as warranted, we'll have to look at this stuff. I don't know that we can be very accurate now on year 2, 2021. And whatever the reality of the rest of this quarter becomes, if it's much worse than we expect, that's going to make us change where we went with 2021. So we just need to be flexible, I think. I don't think it's a moving target. We just don't know.
Yes,
so
I would agree.
Yeah, so let's just plan. I don't know what the date should be. I think circumstances are going to dictate when you need input from us, and we should be available for that.
Okay, and
Again, no, I think
just
given what you have, this is a great start, an excellent start.
I would agree. And right now, there is a call tomorrow with the county for elected officials. To date, they have not extended all this past May 4th. And at the last call last week, things were looking like heading in a more positive direction. So hopefully things will start moving forward after May 4th, but we'll know more tomorrow. Okay, unless there's no more comments, we'll move to committee reports.
All right.
I don't see anybody.
Thank
I'm
you,
trying to
everyone.
look at
Thank you.
everybody's picture. Thank you, Will and Brian. Okay, so we're going to make committee reports. Councilmember Bybee or Councilmember Waterman, you want me to start with you guys? I see Rich shaking his head no, or raising his hand.
I attended the virtual Chamber of Commerce meeting with the guest host, Susan, Mayor Landry, and the city manager.
Councilmember Waterman. Councilmember Waterman, you're on mute. Oh, there you go.
Not anymore. Okay, really quick. I mean, there's a couple of meetings. The Library Finance Committee was, so all the, obviously these committees, I think we're all having the same discussion, but the Finance Committee, the library is actually in pretty good shape because almost all of their revenue comes from property tax. And I asked Supervisor Wasserman, who heads it up, you know, what, is there any chance that'll change? But they're feeling pretty confident the property tax will continue, and only a little bit of fees that come from Campbell and other cities go to that. So that's in pretty good shape. There's, on the flip side, we're having a discussion that I include our city manager and our tax person having to do with Savaca and how much we're contributing. I think our city doesn't contribute as much as the certainly Santa Clara does, so I think they're putting a little bit more pressure on that. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Resnikoff.
Yeah, briefly, just had one meeting with the West Valley Sanitation District, our first virtual meeting using WebEx. It is amazing how this has just become the norm, and other than the usually some initial problems getting started, once you do it, you know, there it is. And before our next meeting, I think it is, we'll have our first virtual meetings for solid waste and clean water. So we'll see how that goes. But we're just kind of pushing along as best as we can. And the one thing I'll just point out that's coming up big on solid waste is we're in disposal contracts now. Beyond that, we'll get into collection contracts a couple years later. So there's a lot of big things coming, and we're going to have to handle them remote. We'll see how it goes.
Thank you. Councilmember Gibbons and Andrea, there are some slides that she prepared.
Okay. So as has just said by Councilmember Resnikoff, lots of meetings are going on, and we're all learning the technology. Silicon Valley Clean Energy is moving ahead at a good pace. One of the most important decisions for our residents is that the electric bills will stay with a 4% discount below PG&E. That's for the ordinary tenant, ordinary client, and for 100% carbon-free power. The board voted to provide $10 million in COVID-19 relief. It's going to be a combination of, and I got to pull my screen full scale so I can read it. It's going to be a combination of programs to train people, help with financial assistance to vulnerable customers, workforce development. They're also going to be offering each city funds for community resilience. I mentioned this last week. It's a program to help cities with power redundancy to weather these difficult times, because we have to remember that PSPSs are still out there. And I think there's already been one this past week, believe it or not. And then we are continuing to buy large amounts of solar and solar storage projects and geothermal projects. So that's all going very well. Okay, next. And lots happening on ABAG. And I wanted to mention this because it's quite relevant specifically to Campbell as well, and some of the requests that they've made of staff. ABAG is being combined with MTC at some point, and there's a lot of things happening because of the COVID laxing of requirements for public hearings, that there's a lot of effort to push through governance changes about ABAGs joining MTC, and that's causing a lot of stress to the various cities because we lose influence in what's going on. The second is the regional growth forecast, which is part of the Plan 2050. There is a push to approve the forecast, which is jobs, housing, and environmental and transportation projections. As we all know, things are changing, and these projections are enormously high. They're projecting millions of new jobs in the Bay Area, for example. And there's information available for what the assumptions are for each city, and we're not being given that. And that's important because it directly relates to the RENA numbers that we're getting. All of this work filters right into the RENA analysis. And then also there's been a request by various cities. The whole Plan 2050 and RENA numbers is a statutory requirement, but there has been a request for a delay because most cities don't have the ability to have staff focus on this material in this time frame. So who knows? The other is the work plan for the Assembly Bill 1487, which was the legislation that will require cities and counties to put on the ballot in November some housing funding. They're proposing a $35, $100,000 evaluation for a bond. Most people think that it's going to be a no-go by the polling, but the polling won't be available to mid-May, so we'll see. Then there's also an oversight panel, and the concern is that it's an appointed panel of non-electeds. It does not have accountability or representation of cities. And they're doing their operation budget, which is supposed to be approved in mid-May, early June, and it has not been adjusted as we were just discussing for ourselves. So there's a concern that it's being pushed too quickly. And there's also a possibility that CARES funding will be applied for, which caught people by surprise. The final comment I think everybody knows is the FASTER project has been canceled, the transportation measure for the greater Bay Area, but there are other transit measures anticipated on the November ballot. So just to simply say, although we think things are hunkered down, MTC and ABAG is moving full speed ahead. So staff's been asked by MTC and ABAG to respond to their Plan 2050 maps and assumptions, and we need to do that. They are also asking, and it's not a bad thing to consider, is adding new PPAs. I forget what the acronym stands for right this minute. And we get more money if we have more PPAs. So it is definitely worth considering, and staff will be looking at that in the near term. And there's also $120,000 available for staff to submit on, and I don't think we've had a chance to do that yet. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I guess I'll start my comments in following up on the RENA numbers, ABAG and MTC. Since I had the chance to meet the governor on Saturday and some of his staff was present, I did talk to them about this MTC ABAG and the fact that they're forging ahead and that the councils have not had time considering the crisis. and asked him, why is everybody else on hold and doing all this planning around COVID-19, and why is MTC ABAG forging ahead? So I did put a pretty big plug in with the person that's right under Gavin Newsom. So what things that I've been doing, as I mentioned earlier, the county has been having 1 or 2 phone calls a week regarding an update. For those of you that don't know, the county does have a dashboard. They list on there the number of new cases each day, and if there was any deaths. There's quite a good information with bar charts and showing the peaks and the flows. How many people by city is now listed. As of yesterday, Campbell had 28 people that had been tested positive. Assemblywoman, Congresswoman Anna Eshoo has been continuing to have town halls. She had another one on Friday. She's very good with answering questions. I've participated in the Bloomberg Foundation, is having phone calls a lot with the Harvard Medical Group. The United States Conference of Mayors has been having telecons. There's another one tomorrow, and they're bringing in, like the last one, Wilbur Ross was on the phone call answering questions. I did make a video that's posted now on our website, just trying to lend moral support to our community and giving some suggestions of things to do while we're staying at home. We also participated in Campbell Cares. They are putting out 2 videos that should be coming out. I think one came out today and the other one would come out tomorrow. They are trying to do a lot of good things for businesses that are suffering in Campbell right now. Let's see. So that's it for me. Does anybody have any closing comments? Let's see here. I see Vice Mayor Gibbons waving her hand again.
Okay. So, yes, thank you for mentioning Campbell Cares, and also the Downtown Business Association is having some wonderful GoFundMe with, if you buy things downtown and you submit your receipt, you get a chance to win a drawing from the downtown merchants. They're working very hard to support each other, which is really quite incredible. And I wanted to just let everybody know that the homeless obviously is a problem, and they are showing up in locations where they haven't previously. There is a program at the county, that's the County of San Jose working together. It's a task force to help identify homeless locations and provide them with health checks and different kinds of support, and try and help them as much as possible and get them housing or for their head. There is a new group 3 different locations at the Rolling Hills, along Highway 85 near Rolling Hills Middle School. And the county has been there. They have tried to help assess people, and they will be constantly moderating that. So if anybody has any homeless encampments that they want to be sure the county is checking out, you can find that on the Santa Clara County Public Health Department's webpage with the link.
And also the county is tonight opening up the Cambrian Community Center. They will be housing, they're using the term unhoused instead of homeless, which I think sounds better. They are going to be able to provide housing for families. I think it's up to 70 people. They are going to be dividing it up whatever way, depending on the family size. So that will be at the Camden Community Center starting tonight. All right, thank you, everybody. I want to remind you, oh wait, is that Rich waving or is wanting to talk? He's just waving. I want to remind everybody, send in your pictures of all the wonderful face masks that you've been making and distributing. Send them to facecoverings@campbellca.gov and share with us your colorful masks. Thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.